Hey there. Welcome to this week's message of Live Your Best Life Now. I'm Deneen Shoemaker. Normally I start out with, like a question or a quick story that kind of relates. I'm going to give you a quick story that relates. Y'all don't really know what I go through to make these videos every week. And I'm going to be really vulnerable with you right now and just say that there are many weeks that I feel as if my message completely falls on deaf ears. And I'm not doing this for me. So some weeks it just feels like it's a big, gigantic waste of time because people either aren't getting it or they're not watching it all the way through or they don't care or whatever. This week has been particularly tough for me. Each time I've tried to record, something has happened to my phone. Satan, get behind me. Because I do believe that this is a word that you might need to hear today. So I'm going to start out in Exodus 6, verses 5 through 9. And before I get started, what I'd really love for you to do is what I did this last week when I was reading this. And that is where Israelite or Israel is mentioned, I would put in my head Plainwell, because that's where I live. And then when it said Egyptians, what I actually inserted rather than Egyptians was, for me this week, it was all about fear. So as I'm reading through these next four lines of scripture, and when you hear Israel, I would like you to put in place of Israel your hometown. And when you hear Egypt or Egyptians, I would like you to put in something that is preventing you from living your fullest life. So, like I said, I thought fear. You might think, I don't know what you'll think. You might think that it's maybe an addiction comes to your mind, drinking or drugs, or maybe it's gossip, or maybe like me, it was fear. So whatever the Lord is bringing up to you, I want you to just insert that into where it did say Egypt. So I'll give you an example. When I start in verse 5, you can be sure that I have heard the groans of the people of Plainwell, who are now slaves to this fear. And I am well aware of my covenant with the people of Plainwell. Therefore, I say to the people of Israel, I am the Lord. I will free you from your oppression, and I will rescue you from your slavery in Egypt. I will redeem you with a powerful arm and great acts of judgment. I will claim you as my own people, and I will be your God. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God, who has freed you from your oppression in Egypt. I will bring you into the land I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to you as your very own possession. I am the Lord. So Moses told the people of Israel what the Lord had said, but they refused to listen to him anymore. They had become too discouraged by the brutality of their slavery. Okay. So going back to, and just as a quick note, all of my notes that I had typed out and kind of worked through this week, I couldn't get them to print. So I pretty much just had to kind of read it, and I can't read that as I'm doing this. Satan, get behind me. Anyway, I thought that this was interesting. I looked up some exegesis, some explanation, if you will, of this. I knew immediately what it meant to me. And I am hoping that without a whole lot of embellishment, you're going to get what it is that I'm talking about. But I looked up the Matthew Henry version of the Bible commentary, and so some of the things that I'm going to be talking about come out of there. And I thought that this was interesting. It said, the supreme need in every hour of difficulty and depression is a vision of God. To see God is to see all else in proper proportion and perspective. So I guess that was the thing that caught me first. You can be sure I have heard the groans of the people of whatever your hometown is. And it doesn't matter where it is worldwide, we're all dealing with the same stuff right now. So I have heard the groans of the people who are now slaves to, maybe it's solitary confinement. You know, maybe you're a slave to your essential job right now. Maybe you're a slave, like I said, to fear. It's only when we see God that all of the rest of it comes into proper perspective. Here's what I love, though. This is what God says. Therefore, say to the people of Israel, I am the Lord. I will free you from your oppression and will rescue you from your slavery in Egypt. I will redeem you. I will claim you as my own people. I will be your God. I will bring you into the land I swore, and I will give it to you as your own possession. Those are promises from God. These words, these comfortable words, they should have revived the, in the commentary it said the drooping Israelites. But in light of our present times, I can't help but maybe slip these words in. These were good and comforting words, and they should have revived the complaining, self-seeking, selfish Americans who honestly believe that their rights are being stripped away from them. And I don't want to get into all of that. I don't want to get into whether our rights or not. What I want to get into is, what is your disposition about the current situation that we're in? Because these words were intended to make the Israelites forget their misery. But they were so taken up by their troubles, they didn't hear God's promises. I will free you. I will redeem you. I will claim you. I will be your God. I will bring you into the land that I promised you, and I will give it to you as your own possession. But they were so taken up with their troubles, they didn't heed God's promises. They instead indulged in discontent and fretfulness. And when we do that, we deprive ourselves of the comfort that we could have gained from those words. All right, so then I go back to this part about, kind of anguish. The people were so in angst over their own troubles. this is what Matthew Henry's commentary had to say. Centuries of slavery made them think like slaves instead of the people of the promised covenant. Slaves prefer to trust the God of their oppressors, worshiping the God of the Egyptians. And this is why they didn't trust God nor his messengers. So like I said to you earlier, my Egyptian this week has probably been fear. And it isn't just fear from this coronavirus. It's fear of getting into any new relationships. Fear of what people might think. Fear of what people might do or say, you can fill in the blank there. I just want to ask you this week, what is your Egyptian? What is it that you are being held a slave to? It could be your own disposition. It could be your own thoughts. It could be your selfish agenda. It could be expectations. I don't know what that is for you. But what I do know is that God has heard the groans of the people of Israel who are now slaves. And he will free, he will rescue, he will redeem, he will claim, and he will be your God. So, my question for you this week is, are you going to hold on to what the Egyptian in your life wants you to believe? Or are you going to hold on to the promises that God has and has fulfilled throughout the centuries for us? I hope you kind of get the metaphor here. That is my prayer for you this week. If anything that I have said has been, worthwhile, if anything that I have said has resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends. And you know what? Mostly my prayer for you this week is that you will no longer be held captive by your Egyptian. Grace and peace, my friend. Live your best life now, because this ain't no dress rehearsal.